Outerwear for runners. Now, one of the beauties of running is that it is simple. You don't need a lot to go running. But good outerwear or kit makes a huge difference for running. I've tried a lot of kit over the years. I've tried the fancy boutique brands, I've tried the no-name brands, and I kind of always come back to Nike's outerwear because it's simple, it's accessible, it's not the cheapest, but it's also not the most expensive, and I really like their fabrics and their cuts. So in this video, I'm going to go through my favorite pieces from Nike's running outerwear. A couple of things I look for outerwear are how lightweight it is, meaning how light is it on the body, but also how fast does it dry? Because I travel a lot and I want kit that I can hand wash and it will be dry in a few hours, or at the very least, it will dry overnight so that I don't need to bring a lot of stuff when I travel. Also, given that I live in a very hot, humid climate where dryers aren't very common, we have washers, but dryers aren't very common, so you generally always have to hang your clothes out to dry. I also want fast drying fabrics because heavier fabrics, cotton-based fabrics, they just will never dry where I primarily live. So I like very lightweight synthetic fabrics. And I think Nike's Dri-FIT, and Nike has a bunch of different flavors of Dri-FIT, I think is the best one that I've used. Another thing I look for is, again, lightweightness, but also that contributes to packability. Because again, I want to be able to travel to a climate or a range of climates with the most minimal kit that I can possibly get. And lightweight fabrics that will roll or compress in a packing cube very small are key to me because they don't take up a lot of room. And that's a huge thing for me. And lastly, lightweightness, synthetic fabrics, how they feel on the body, how they feel on the skin is the most important thing. Because the other things I just talked about, I'll work around, I'll figure out workarounds for that. But if it doesn't feel good, I don't want to wear it. And this is the problem I've had with some of the boutique brands. They have very lightweight fabrics, but they're either too rough or their cuts are very strange, or most importantly, one of the things I like about Nike is that I can get everything in just straight black with a very small logo on it, and that's it. I don't need fancy colors. I don't want patterns. I don't want any of that stuff. I just want simple kit. So a lot of the boutique brands have all these kind of loud designs or very iconic designs for that brand, which I don't necessarily want. I want simple, I want lightweight, I want it to feel good against the skin, and I don't want it to bind anywhere, which is another problem I run in with some of the cuts and some of the designs of some of the boutique brands' pieces, especially their shorts. And I'm very picky with shorts, and that's why we're going to start with shorts. And the foundation of my Nike all-season kit really is Nike AeroSwift 2-inch brief-line shorts. Now, these are the best short that I've ever run in, and they're the one I spend most of the time in. Now, I like split shorts. I like short shorts. I like the cut of these shorts and the design of these shorts because they don't bind on the leg, and that's huge to me. After years of cycling and wearing spandex all of the time and feeling, all those fabrics on my body, AeroSwift's shorts are just so lightweight and they just do not bind on your legs at all. When I'm running, I especially dislike feeling fabric on my thighs. I don't like it constricting my knee lift when I'm running. And the AeroSwift shorts are the perfect split short for that. Now, I'm only about 5'9", and I'm not the tallest runner, so a 2-inch short on me actually falls at a somewhat decent distance. They're short, but they're not obscenely short like short shorts can be on taller people. If I wear a short that's longer than 5 inches, it's basically to my knees and it looks like a basketball short, which that's not the look I'm going for. Plus, I don't like how that feels when I run. So the foundation of my running kit is really the Nike AeroSwift short. And these are also what I race in. And I race in them, again, for everything I just mentioned, but also they have 4 pockets in them, which is about what I need for gels. And they're perfectly fit or designed, it seems, for Martin gels, though any gel will really fit in them. So there's 2 in the front, 2 in the back. I can get 4 gels in the shorts, and generally that's what I need for a race. With a marathon, I may bring a few more gels, and for that I will have another piece, which I'll get to later in this video. But for most racing, half marathon and lower, I rarely ever need more than 4 gels. So the AeroSwift short, again, is the perfect racing short for me. Moving on to the next piece. Now, I know half tights are sort of the look right now in running, especially road running, and I do wear them occasionally. I don't wear them for racing generally, unless I know it's going to be extremely hot and therefore chafing may be an issue. Then I will go for half tights. Or if it's going to be cooler, like under 10 degrees Celsius or under about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, that's when I like half tights. But generally, all the other times, I don't ever really pick half tights over split shorts. But the half tights that I like, again, are the Nike AeroSwift half tights. I think they're great. I do like the ribbed design that they've had for the past few years. And for 2022, the latest ones that I've gotten, they actually have a rear pocket in them, a rear zippered pocket in them, which again is similar across all Nike's pieces, but this one I think is a little bit deeper. You're still not going to fit a big phone in it, but you could probably get 5, 6 gels in there, or a key card. You can get a few things in there, which I think is actually good. So I primarily will wear these in cooler temperatures as just a compression layer, which kind of keeps me warm in those cooler temperatures. And the last foundational piece to my kit is really the Nike AeroSwift Singlet. Now, this piece is probably the shirt or the top that I wear 90% of the time for my runs in Taipei, because again, it's always hot, it's always humid. Also, the AeroSwift Singlet has changed design and cut considerably over the past couple years. I actually have a few of these, and I prefer the cut and the design of the older ones from 2 or 3 years ago, which you're not going to find anywhere. The newer 2022-2023 version of this has a slightly different design. The bonded seam has changed. It's moved lower onto the chest, and the cut is much tighter, which for racing I think totally works. And it's still an AeroSwift cut. It's still super lightweight, and it's still the same fabric. It's actually got more holes in it, which I think is more lightweight. But for general running when I'm not racing, I prefer the older AeroSwift pieces. So with those 3 pieces out of the way, which are really the foundation of everything else that I do with this kit, and again, this kit's built around layers, let's move into sort of the mid-tier stuff that I use for a larger range of temperatures. The first piece in here is the Nike Stride running short. This is the 5-inch brief line short. Now, this short has changed names a ton of times over the years. Currently, they're calling it Nike Stride, but who knows what it'll be called last year. And if you find stuff in like a Nike factory outlet or something, they may have the older ones. It's been called Dri-FIT. It's been called Rise. It's not any of the Run Division or Tech Pack shorts. It's just generally Stride, Flex, Dri-FIT. There's a bunch of names for it. But I like this short because it's a 5-inch inseam, which is about as long as I ever want to run in, but it actually feels a little shorter. And the cut of it is not a split short, but it doesn't bind. And like I said, it has a brief in it. Again, I don't like the sort of boxer line things. I like briefs. And also, I only run in line shorts. I don't want to deal with a secondary piece. I just want that brief in there. It always works for me. I don't really have any problems. I do use chafing cream occasionally, but generally speaking, I don't really have any problems. So I always will pick a short with a brief liner in it. And I think the Nike Stride is probably the best, most basic short. Now in the back, it does have a zippered pocket, which is similar to the AeroSwift half tights. This one, again, you're not going to fit a big phone in there, but you're going to fit some gels, a key card, keys, any sort of other, smaller random objects that you may need on your run. Even a GoPro fits in there if you run with cameras. Again, it's nice to have. Also, this short does have side pockets on it, so you can wear it casually. I have gone swimming in this short before. So this is just a foundational short for sort of everything else that I need. So if I am racing in AeroSwift stuff and then I need something in my drop bag for more casual use or just to get away from the race, this is generally the short I'm going to put in there. It's also if I'm going away for the weekend and I need a short to run in, swim in, just wear casually. This is also a great short for that. So it just works really well for a lot of instances, and it's actually really good to run in. The second sort of mid-tier piece is just a simple tee. Now this currently is called the Nike Rise 365, but again, this tee has had a bunch of different names. It's been called Stride, Flex, Dri-FIT. Just like the short, this is I think the same product category for Nike. But I really like this shirt, whatever Nike calls it. And I've been buying this shirt for years now because the fabric is, I think, their best Dri-FIT fabric. This is not AeroSwift, so it's a little bit heavier, but it's still very lightweight, but it's also very breathable. And this thing dries really fast. Also, it dries on you. So if you're running in a very hot environment and then there's some breeze or you stop, and after about 15, 20 minutes, especially with a breeze, this will be somewhat more dry and won't be as clammy. Also, when it gets really heavy with sweat or rain, it doesn't necessarily completely stick to you like some other fabrics. So it's, I think, just the most optimal mix of sort of just a baseline tech fabric tee that I've found. And I've tried a lot of them, and I've tried a lot of the other Nike ones. Now, Nike makes another line called the Mylar, which I actually don't mind. It's a little cheaper and it's a little easier to find. But again, the fabric's a little rougher, which I don't necessarily like, though the weave is a little bit more open, so it's a little bit more airy. All of the Run Division stuff that I've tried is a thicker synthetic merino feel fabric. It's a much thicker fabric, which I don't really like. Even in colder temperatures, I don't really like because there's a little bulk to it. And then there is another line called the Element from Nike, which is a thicker fabric, much better for cooler temperatures. I actually have a piece in here with that fabric. I'll get to it in a bit. And then there's all Nike's Tech Pack fabrics. So the Tech Pack fabrics are sort of all over the map. They sort of start from this piece and then they get lighter. They, add details to it, pockets. They put some AeroSwift type webbing maybe on the sides or the back. The Tech Pack stuff's all over the map, but I think the best foundational team Nike makes is this Rise 365 top, and who knows what they'll call it next season, but that's what they call it right now. Now, speaking of Nike Element, the next piece is the Nike Element long sleeve tee. Now, as I said, the Element fabric is a thicker mid-weight fabric. It's not as light as just the basic Dri-FIT or the 365 stuff I just talked about. And it's not one of their Therma fabrics, which are much thicker. This is sort of in between that, and it's very soft, which I actually really like. So this is a piece that I spend most of my winters in. Again, Taipei, Taiwan, winter is about 10 degrees Celsius or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And where I am now in Seattle, that's the temperature. So I've been running in this piece a lot. This piece is great on its own, just either one of the shorts I went through, or I can layer it with the AeroSwift singlet or over the tee that I just talked about. So again, a lot of this kit is built on layering, and this is a core piece for cooler temperatures. Anything really under 15 degrees Celsius, definitely around 10 degrees Celsius and under, which is about, again, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, Nike does make a ton of other mid-weight pieces, and generally they're called their Therma line. Sometimes they call it AeroLoft, though I think that's an older name. Those pieces tend to be much heavier, much thicker, and much bulkier fabrics, which I don't really like because, again, I like the Element piece because it's sort of in the middle. It's a good layering piece. It goes above a tee, but it also works under jackets and vests as well, which the other Therma pieces don't necessarily do. And then the last top that I really always have with me is a Nike Windrunner Repel running jacket. So this is their top of the line windbreaker / water resistant piece. It isn't a hard shell by any means. You will get wet eventually in it, but it's enough protection for running an hour, 90 minutes in drizzle or light rain. You'll stay generally pretty dry in this. Plus from a wind perspective, which is generally the thing that I want to shell for more is wind, because if I'm going to run in the rain, I'm going to get wet. I accept it. I just get wet. But wind is the thing that I don't like, especially cold wind. So the Windrunner is actually really good for cutting that wind out. It is, like I said, it's not a hard shell, but it is a coated fabric. So it does block a considerable amount of the wind. Really heavy wind, it will get through eventually. And since it has a lot of venting in it, in the back, in the hood, on the sides, in the pockets, if you have those open, you will get some wind through it. But again, that's how you ventilate the piece in the first place. But the Windrunner, I think, is one of the best running jackets I've ever bought. There's fancier ones, there's more basic ones, even from Nike, and there's ones that are different fabrics that are not necessarily a coated windproof or water repellent piece. But again, I think this is the best mix of a lot of things that I want. And for really cold weather, if I need to layer everything, what I'll do is I'll do the AeroSwift tank or Singlet, or the tee, one of the two, the Element long sleeve, and then the Windrunner on top. And for almost all temperatures, up to about 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit, really down to freezing, I'm pretty good across the board with those layers. Anything colder, I will add in a vest, which I'll get to at the end of this video. But for 95% of where I run right now, those 3 layers, again, a Singlet or tee, the Element mid layer, and then the Windrunner shell or exterior layer are all I need on top for all the range of temperatures that I run in. My other cold weather piece is really the AeroSwift full tight. Now, while I don't necessarily love half tights, especially in warmer weathers, unless it's super hot and chafing is going to be an issue, I do like tights in colder weather. I definitely prefer a tight over a pant or a wind pant or a training pant or a warm-up pant. I will always pick a tight for anything cooler than about 12 degrees Celsius, which is low 50s Fahrenheit. I especially like the AeroSwift tights because, again, I like the ribbed fabric. It actually feels really nice, and it actually, I think, is much more durable than a non-ribbed fabric. And specifically to the AeroSwift tights, over the past couple years, especially since I think about 2021, they've added a ton of pockets to them. So they have that back pocket that I mentioned for a few other Nike bottom pieces, but there's actually side pockets that are on the sides of them, sort of on the back of your hip, that can fit a gel or a key fob or something like that, which I think are really useful. There's also loops on those where you can stuff a windbreaker or a sort of mid-level piece like the Element piece. You can stuff them in those straps in a pinch if you need to. But again, I think the AeroSwift full tight is probably the best tight I've run in, and I've run in a lot of tights, and some of the boutique brands do have really nice tights. But again, I come back to the AeroSwift stuff because I just like the fabric. This is also a brief line tight, which is, I won't buy a tight unless it's brief line because, again, I don't want to deal with underwear. I don't want to deal with another piece. So again, AeroSwift has the same Nike brief liner that's across all Nike pieces, which I love and works really well for me. So the AeroSwift full tight also has all of that stuff built in, and it is probably the best piece that I spend the most time in for very cold temperatures. With all the layers I described earlier, I'm pretty much good to go anywhere. And then the last piece that I'm going to talk about, which I don't currently own because I don't need it, is currently called the Nike Therma-FIT 80V Repel piece. Though in the past, this has been called the AeroLoft vest. This is a down vest, or I think I seem to remember it being synthetic fill, the last time I bought one of these, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But again, this is a very, very tight fitting vest that is definitely a key layering piece for very cold temperatures. And what I mean by very cold is anything below freezing, below 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which when I lived in New York City was pretty common for me to be running in. So this would be a piece that I would have a tee, the Element mid, then I put the vest in there, which would compress everything, and then I'd put a shell on top of that, usually the Windrunner. And that was my extreme cold weather kit. And I'd be comfortable in that to run down to about 10 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think is about minus 10 to 12, maybe a little bit colder. I'll put it on the screen in Celsius, but I would have no problem going down to those temperatures. However, if it was colder than that, I just wouldn't go out and run because I'm not going to deal with those temperatures. But like I said, I don't currently own this piece because I don't need it. I don't run anywhere that's even remotely that cold, even in the winter. So all the other pieces that I mentioned, minus this vest, are really the core of my running kit. And then if I ever need a vest, I will buy this vest because I think it's one of the better ones. Also, it is more breathable than you would think. It is a hard shell piece, but there is more breathability in it because of the cut and the way it kind of wicks moisture away from you. Again, I wouldn't wear this close to the skin. It's always through at least 1 or 2 layers of fabric, but it never gets super wet. It never gets super damp. And that's something I always liked, which a lot of other lined down or synthetic fill vests can feel like a sponge in that sort of middle layer between what's close to your skin and the hard shell that you have on top of that. So again, the AeroLoft or the ADV Repel piece, I think is the best running vest that you can buy across any brand, even if you don't like Nike. Now let's talk about socks. Now, I have tried a million running socks, and this is the sock, the Nike Spark Lightweight, specifically the lightweight that I always come back to for comfort, for blister control, and for moisture wicking. This is a very thin, very technical piece, very technical fiber piece. The cut of this, the ribbing in it, it hugs your foot. It's very tight. It's very thin. There's no cushion in the sock because I do not like socks that have a lot of cushion in them or that are very thick or that are very moisture absorbent, which a lot of merino or some of the other sort of brands that people really like out there, and the brands I'm talking about. I don't need to mention any names. They just are sponges for moisture, which again contribute to blistering. So the Nike Spark Lightweight, specifically the lightweight, because the lightweight is the lighter one. There is a Nike Spark, which has like it's a thicker fabric and there's some cushion on the bottom of it. I've mistakenly ordered those online before. They're not good. I don't like them at all. But the lightweight version of this is the best running sock I've ever run in. And like I said, I've tried so many running socks to find ones that fit the way I want them to and then don't give me blisters. I still get blisters in this, but that has more to do with just hot, humid temperatures, and I'm very blister prone. But this is the one that controls blistering the best for me. Also, I specifically like no-show socks. I would say 99% of my running is in a no-show sock. I do have, I think, 1 or 2 pairs of ankle versions of this that I will pull out when it's really cold, just so it covers up the ankle under the tight. But generally, I'm running a no-show just because that's what I like. I like the way it looks, but I also like the way it feels because, again, I don't like a lot of bulk around my ankles, around my Achilles. I just want the most minimal sock possible on my foot, and this really is the best one. Now, I will say that this sock can be hard to find. It comes and goes on Nike.com and in Nike stores. Like, for example, most of the end of 2021 and all of 2022, I never saw this online or in stores, at least in Taiwan where I was. And when I was in Japan, I also didn't see it. Then all of a sudden, they appeared everywhere. So I actually bought, I think, about 12 or 14 pairs of these things just to stock up. So when you see this sock, buy it. And I always buy half white, half black, so I have a mix, depending on what color shoe I'm running in. If it's a light shoe, I'll go with a white sock. If it's a dark shoe, I'll go with a black sock. But I generally like things that are black, in case you can't tell. But black socks and lighter shoes always look a little weird, so I make sure to mix the colors with this one. But if you like this sock, especially if you try this sock and you find it, buy as many as you can afford or as many as you think will stock up. I get about 3 to 4 months a pair out of these socks. They don't get holes or anything. They just get a little sort of, I'm going to say crusty, though that's not the right word. I think it's more from all the repeated washing, and it's the laundry detergent that gets into the fabric that makes it feel a little stiffer. So once it gets a little stiff, I don't throw them away. I do keep them around just in case, I need to go back and, I can't find them. I'm a little like shell shocked with these socks because I don't like to get rid of them because, like I said, when you can't find them and you need them, you just can't find them. So I do keep the older ones, and if they're crusty, I'll tend to wash them by hand in just warm water, no detergent, sort of loosens them up. But the newer ones that are fresh, you just take them out of the packaging. They feel the best. They feel soft. They feel great. I love this sock. I cannot recommend this sock enough. Another piece, this is one of the final pieces, is just a good running cap. And I specifically have always bought this one because it's really lightweight, dries really fast, and it seems to last a long time. Now, currently, this is called the Nike Dri-FIT ADV Fly, though in the past, this has been called the Nike Tailwind or Tailwind Lightweight Cap. Again, Nike seems to be changing the names for a lot of their pieces. This is one that has a lot of changes to it. In fact, I couldn't find it through the Nike.com site, even through search, until I learned that this is the new name for it. But again, this is a great running cap. I generally have one in black and one in white. Super lightweight, moisture wicking, fits my head, which my head tends to be sort of narrow and then long. So getting hats to fit my head sometimes are a little bit of a challenge. This one's great. It's got a Velcro back on it. You can adjust it to whatever you want, but it's very lightweight. It's very soft. It's very flexible. It doesn't really sort of get in the way. That's all I want in a running cap. This is the one I've bought continuously, probably at least 3 or 4 of these over the past 5 to 6 years, because again, it's my favorite running cap and it's the one I just keep coming back to. Now, rounding out my cold weather kit is really this kit from Nike. It's called the Nike Essential Running Hat and Glove Set. It's sold as a set. I think this actually is their Therma-Weight fabric for the hat. It's kind of got a bit of a rib texture to it. And then the gloves, I think, are the Element fabric, actually, which are not the thickest gloves. But again, for a running glove, I don't need something really thick. I don't need a lined, big fleece thing. I'm not running in the mountains. I'm not running into extreme cold temperatures. I just need something to keep my hands sort of, warm as I'm running in those cooler mornings. This is really all I need. It's $35 US. You can probably find a better hat. You can probably find a better glove. But again, this just works. They're also very lightweight. They fold up really nicely. They don't take up a lot of room, and they dry reasonably fast. And then the last piece I'm going to talk about is really this Nike Essential Running Fanny Pack. Now, this thing is extremely small. It's not a big fanny pack like what your dad wears. This is a very minimal pack. In fact, to fit in an iPhone 14 or 15 Pro Max, the bigger iPhone, you can fit it in there because this thing stretches quite a bit, but that's about all you're going to fit in there. So what I use this for is if I need to run with my phone, like when I'm in a new city, I want to take photos or I want to shoot video for this channel, which again, I shoot everything on an iPhone. This is generally what I carry my phone in because I hate running with things in my hands. And when I race, if I need more than 4 gels that the AeroSwift short will hold, this is what I put everything else in. So again, for New York City, I will probably have 2 or 4 gels in the short, and then I'll carry the rest, which will probably be 3 to 4 other gels in this, plus maybe some salt tablets or stuff that I may or may not need. But this, again, is a very minimal piece that will just go around your waist. You can put some extra stuff in it. You can slide it around your body to sort of get back into it and then move it back, which I like quite a bit. And it's really unobtrusive. So it's a great piece for what it is. It's nothing special, but I do find it necessary sometimes. So that's my full all-weather Nike kit. Now, all of those pieces, except for the vest, except for the AeroLoft vest or the Repel ADV vest, as they call it now, all of those pieces will fold up or roll up into a small packing cube about the size of a pair of running shoes. So when I travel, I can bring my full kit that will let me run in really any temperature that takes up about the same size as one pair of running shoes in my bag. So I love that I can get all of that in that size of a packing cube. Now I do own some other pieces. When I do travel, I generally will go to a Nike store and I find some weird pieces. Again, the run division pieces can be sort of one-offs or some interesting stuff that you can find locally in different regions. And the tech pack stuff can be interesting to find. Those sometimes it can be a little out there, or sometimes it's a little bit more fashiony than it is functional. But I have a few other pieces. I'll pull them out every once in a while. But the core of my running is everything that I went into in this video. And again, when I travel, like now I'm traveling, that's all I bring. I just bring what I talked about in this video. And again, it lets me run everywhere in every climate for every type of running that I want to do. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you like this type of content, consider subscribing. You'll see more content like this pop up in your feed. If not, drop a like on this video because it helps this channel continue to grow, which I always appreciate. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.